All right, hello again, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to another fantasy football podcast. It is Monday, March 4th, 2024, and some noteworthy news bits have come down the pike today on Monday, which we're going to get to. Also, I want to touch on the some of what I saw at the NFL Combine, which of course ended yesterday with the offensive linemen doing their workout, and there's some interesting things to note there. Um, of course, Xavier Worthy setting the record in the 40-yard dash, 4.21. The Texas wideout, very thin Texas wideout, but boy, could he really run? I mean, that was just unbelievable how quick he was there. And I wanted to talk about the quarterbacks, but really two big news items today. And before I get into that, of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button if you haven't done so already. Like I said, in the next couple of weeks, with free agency coming, lots of videos. So as soon as a player signs during the free agency period that has fantasy football relevancy, we will get on here and discuss it with a instant reaction video. Now today, Mike Evans officially re-ups with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2-year deal north of 25 million. I don't remember. Let me look up the exact number there. But the bottom line here is that Evans is now off the market, and this once looking ballyhooed looking free agent class at the wide receiver position is no more. 2 years, 52 million. That's what it was to return to Tampa Bay, and so now Evans has re-signed with Tampa Bay. T. Higgins has gotten the franchise tag from the Bengals. Michael Pittman will get the franchise tag from the Indianapolis Colts, and that really leaves Calvin Ridley as the last man standing, and the Jaguars are talking about bringing him back, although not with the franchise tag, at least not yet. There's been no indication of that. But Evans coming off yet another spectacular season, 10 straight years now of over 1,000 yards receiving. I've said this from the very beginning, guys. Even this season is that, and I'm just pulling out some of my notes on him because I wanted to discuss him a little bit more in terms of 2024. But 10 straight seasons, 1,000 yards receiving, the only player in NFL history to do that. I think that is one of the most underrated stats in all of sports. Like, it really is just staggering how consistently excellent Evans has been to begin his season. And here's the thing. This year, if he goes over 1,000 yards receiving again, he will match the immortal Jerry Rice for 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Now, Rice did not begin his career like that, unlike Evans, but he did have 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards receiving. Evans will match that this season if he can reach that feat. And, I have to be honest with you, at least some of the later reports that had come out in the last couple of days, I thought Evans was really going to test free agency. I kept thinking in the back of my head, I know he's never played with, other than Tom Brady, of course, he's never really played with top shelf quarterbacks. He's had the Josh McCowns, the Jameis Winstons, hell, even the Baker Mayfields. I know Mayfield played well last year, but I think a lot of that had to do with Evans. He just hasn't been able to play with big primetime quarterbacks. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity for Evans to sign on with the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Buffalo Bills, two teams, upper echelon teams, the cream of the crop, really, at the NFL, that could certainly have used him. Both the Bills, who have been looking for a number 2 receiver for Stephon Diggs, and the Chiefs, who really had to rely on rookie Rashee Rice at the position. I thought that would be a really good fit for him, but it just didn't happen. So now Evans is back. Now Baker Mayfield hasn't signed yet, but I think he will. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit more on Evans. Let me just pull up what I had written for him here. So as far as last season is concerned, listen, prior to the season starting, myself and the majority of the fantasy football community took pause with the Tampa Bay Wideouts because Tom Brady no longer there, and they brought in Mayfield, who was just awful with the Browns, the Rams. I mean, he played okay with the Rams, but it was just a shortstop. In the Panthers, he was terrible before they cast him aside. So he became a journeyman, failed first overall pick. So it just didn't look like a prolific setting for him to maintain his fantasy relevancy, and even Chris Godwin as well. And even the thinking was that, okay, Mayfield's going to throw short more than he's going to throw long, so this is really going to help out Chris Godwin more than Evans. But Evans, of course, has done what he's always done, winds up catching 79 passes, 1,255 yards, 13 touchdowns. All right, so this is now the 5th time in Evans' 10 seasons that he's caught double-digit touchdowns. Just amazing stuff. Like, he's just been an absolute monster when it comes to not only yardage, but also receiving touchdowns. And that really helps carry his value, especially in a standard league. 5 out of 10 seasons that he's had at least 12. So I said double digits. Like, it's even more potent than that. He's 5 occasions in 12 in 10 seasons. He's had at least 12 receiving touchdowns, which is unbelievable. Now, and I admit I've done this before as well, because I always play in a PPR league. Every year you look at Evans, and only 2 times in those 10 years has he caught 80 or more passes. He had a 90-plus catch season, and he had an 80-plus catch season. Also, only 2 of his 10 NFL seasons have gone for 80-plus catches, which, that's not great in a PPR league. But Evans is so good at scoring touchdowns and putting up the yardage that he is the rare receiver that can overcome that in a PPR league. So he was a top wide receiver 2 in PPR leagues last year. I mean, you could even make the case he was a low-end 1, even with 72 catches, right? He's never going to challenge for the league-leading catches. It's just not part of his game. But he is a major, big play, red zone guy. You're going to have those games, 2 or 3 times a year where Evans is going to catch 3 passes for 20 yards. And you're going to, this guy is not consistent, blah, 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 baloney. The numbers will be there at the end because they always are. They're always there in the end. And he's going to be a top wide receiver 2 again this year until proven otherwise. Listen, he's going to be 31. All right, we've talked about the age for wide receivers as soft tissue injuries start to happen there. But he's only missed 9 games in 10 NFL seasons. I believe one of them was the suspension with Marshawn Lattimore. So you can really throw that out. Only 8 out of 10 games. And I even think maybe one of those was to wait for the playoffs. So he's not an injury prone player at all. So at least I think for one more season, 2024, you have to be back in on him. You just have to, right? You ignore the age. And again, like Keenan Allen last year at 31 was really good. Like Mike Evans last year at 30 was really good. So this is not like a firm rule. It's not as pronounced as the running back situation where they're 27 and older, the problems start, right? At the wide receiver position, yes, the soft tissue injuries happen. Yes, players start to lose a step, like Tyler Lockett with Seattle. He kind of aged quickly last year. But Evans, I think, has deserved the benefit of the doubt. Let's face it. So we'll have to see what happens there. Baker Mayfield hasn't signed. Now, there was actually some rumblings say the New England Patriots might take a look at him and then draft Marvin Harrison. This is the second time now I've heard the Patriots being connected to Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison, in my opinion, is the best player in the entire draft. Like, I don't think there's any question about it. And most people agree. He's the most talented player. Obviously, he's got the genes. He's got the lineage. His father's a Hall of Fame wideout. He's even more naturally skilled than his father was. And he's the best player in this draft. Now, if the quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, like we still expect to happen, the Arizona Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison Jr. They're probably going to let Marquise Brown go in free agency. He was very disappointing last year. And then Harrison, right out of the gate, is a wide receiver 1 in fantasy with Kyler Murray. And listen, the Arizona Cardinals are going to be that team this year that has a plethora of underrated players. Kyler Murray is going to be drafted QB 12 or 13 this year. And he was really good when he came back from his injury. Trey McBride, the most 20-point PPR games at the tight end position last year, wasn't Travis Kelce, wasn't Sam Laporta, it was not TJ Hawkinson before he got hurt. It was Trey McBride in really 2/3 of his season because he didn't start until week 6 when Zach Ertz got injured. All right. And then, James Conner. I know he's going to be another year older. I had James Conner last year just because the value was so good that even though he was 27 or 28, rather, he was last year. And it worked. Helped win me a championship. I'm not going to go back to the well on that. I'm cutting my gains there and moving on for next season. But and Marvin Harrison, if he ends up with the Cardinals, he won't be drafted in the first 2 rounds in fantasy. He's just not. Because people, nobody in fantasy, they'll do this with a running back, even though that's a mistake, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Ryan Matthews. Think about all the running backs we've drafted in the first round that have not worked out. Even Bijan Robinson, it didn't really work out, although it wasn't his fault, totally. But Marvin Harrison, if you could get him in round 3, he's going to put up wide receiver 1 numbers. That, right off the bat, I can tell you right now, round 3 Marvin Harrison is going to be a winning proposition. take White out round 1, get a running back round 2, and then you come back to Marvin Harrison round 3. Hell, it might even be round 4. You have to see what the Cardinals do, what else they do there. But that is a winning spot right there to get a quick, to take advantage of a draft anomaly, because on talent alone, and if he ends up with the Cardinals, he'll be the top target of Murray. He would be a second-round pick, and you could probably get him in round 4 this year. All right, the other big news of the day, Russell Wilson officially released by the Denver Broncos. So the quarterback position in fantasy is really in flux, as is the running back position. We spent a lot of time on the running backs. I'm not going to go over it again. Nothing new really to report there. Other than Saquon Barkley to the Houston Texans, that seems to be the consensus line of thinking. And certainly the Texans have a lot of money to spend on offense, because CJ Stroud, rookie contract. Tank Dell, rookie contract. Nico Collins, rookie contract. They have extra money to spend on a running back. So they can hand a 2-year deal to Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs or Tony Pollard and say, okay, what do you 12 million for 2 years? 24 million? Sure, let's do it. They have that luxury to do that. And I think Saquon Barkley would be a tremendous fit. And I really like Saquon Barkley personally. I've met him a number of times. Class act, always signs for the kids. Just a really, really good guy. And I feel bad for him that it just hasn't worked out here. It's been a frustrating time. I wouldn't say he's been a disappointment. I just think overall it's been a frustrating experience for him because of the injuries. Missing 3 large chunks or the entire season pretty much of 3 of his 6 seasons with injuries, serious injuries. The malaise that this Giants organization has turned into with just awful quarterback play, awful offenses like for the last decade. And Barkley just couldn't do it by himself. But he's been a stand-up guy, always faces the media, class act, doesn't get in trouble, just a good person. And I feel bad it didn't work here, but I think it's over. And I think I would love to see him with the Texans because I would love to see him succeed there. All right, this Texans team is going to be really, really something to watch offensively next year. All in on CJ Stroud, all in on Nico Collins. So now getting back to Russell Wilson. I mean, things are all over the place with this quarterback position. Justin Fields, he's going to go to Atlanta. Pump the brakes, maybe not. Kirk Cousins apparently now is a top target for Atlanta. Today you heard the Commanders are going to go after Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is looking at a lot of dollar signs, folks. He really is. A lot of dollar signs. And he's the big domino. The domino of Kirk Cousins has to fall, and then it's going to fall down to who's acquiring Justin Fields. Where is Russell Wilson going to sign? Because Russell Wilson played well last year. Even if you don't like him, he played well last year. Now, he comes across as a phony, like a little dramatic. I get it. But overall, he's a good guy. Like, he's not a bad person. He doesn't get in trouble. He's got a little bit of a little quirkiness to him. But Russell Wilson can still play. He's 33. He's not going to run like he used to, but he proved with the Broncos last year. He had them winning games. His TD to INT ratio was splendid, really good. Showed he could win again. Okay? I do think he'll be the fallback. If you're the Commanders and you have that number 2 pick and you take a Jaden Daniels or Drake May and you sign Russell Wilson to a 2-year deal, it's not going to cost you anything because the Broncos owe him so much money. That would work. Like, Wilson could start for a year, coach up, mentor up Drake May, Jaden Daniels. And I think Jaden Daniels is starting to pass Drake May. That's a lot. You've been hearing a lot about that. That could definitely work. Why hasn't Justin Fields been traded yet? What's the holdup there? Is there cold feet by Atlanta? Apparently they like Kirk Cousins. What's going on with Minnesota? Because listen, they have to keep Justin Jefferson happy. The Minnesota Vikings, they have to re-sign Kirk Cousins. They absolutely have to re-sign him. Their whole season and future with Justin Jefferson hinges on what they do here with Kirk Cousins. Just pulling up my combine notes. The NFL Combine didn't really... some of the second-tier quarterbacks kind of cleaned up where they stand. Caleb Williams didn't do any on-field drills. Neither did Drake May. Neither did Jaden Daniels. How I feel about that. I thought that was ridiculous. I think they absolutely should have been there. Michael Penix Jr. threw really, really well. Like the southpaw, the spirals, everything was tight. He was locked in on everything. Like he did a great job. He showed really well. Bo Nix showed well. The only time Bo Nix struggled is when he had to throw the deep ball. That wasn't very crisp. But Bo Nix, I thought, did well. I think Spencer Rattler did a good job. All right, Spencer Rattler, Oklahoma, USC, South Carolina, like he did a really, really good job. He impressed me, and I think that he has the most upside in terms of the mid-round quarterbacks. He's got a cannon for an arm. He could move. He's got guts. He hangs in the pocket. He takes hits. I think that Netflix special that he did in high school, and Sam Hartman, I believe, was in that same season. It probably not the best thing for Rattler, who was immature at the time. He got in trouble in his high school. He had a little circuitous path in college in terms of all the different places that he's been. But I think he showed well at the combine. He really stood out to me. Liked the way he threw. He's got a gun. He's somebody to watch. Sam Hartman, really rough. Sam Hartman, and I hate to kill the kid, but Austin Reed of Western Kentucky, they were just terrible. I mean, they were just awful. Sam Hartman cannot throw an accurate ball beyond 30 yards. I'm sorry. His deep balls were horrendous. Austin Reed, Western Kentucky kid, I don't want to pick on him. He's no way he's getting drafted. It was hard to watch. Keaton Slovis of BYU ran a 4.55 40-yard dash. That was really impressive. The kid from Kentucky, I thought did really well throwing the ball. It was overall the quarterbacks I think did pretty well there. Now, as far as the running backs are concerned, Jalen Wright of Tennessee, 4.38 in the 40. He showed out really, really well. This guy, Jaden Sheardon of Monmouth College, or Monmouth University in New Jersey, very small school. He ran a 4.45, put up some huge numbers on a smaller level, but he was really good. He showed out really well in the combine. Trey Benson of Florida State, 4.39 in the 40. He's somebody to watch. And Trey Benson has overall fantasy value, because he can catch the ball, he can run. He's got those fantasy friendly tools that if he's like a third, fourth round pick, he could contribute as a rookie. Jalen Wright, meanwhile, was not as much involved in the passing game for Tennessee. I like Tyrone Tracy of Purdue. He was a 4.48. He did really well. He can catch the ball. He caught a lot of balls at Purdue. Isaac Grendo of Louisville, 4.33 in the 40. Lightning quick. They had a committee there in Louisville. I thought he did a nice job. Ray Davis of Kentucky impressed me. Blake Corum ran a 4.53. Very, very productive player at Michigan, no doubt about it. 3-year starter. Had some injuries while he was in school. The 4.53, not great, but again, and they made this point on the telecast, Devonta Freeman, Devin Singletary, guys who have been very productive in the NFL with 4.55 plus, and Singletary was in a 4.6 range in the 40. Didn't have explosive speed, but they were very productive. So I think Blake Corum, Jim Harbaugh, on a team that's not going to have Austin Eckler, it makes total sense that Harbaugh is going to take him in round 2 or 3, probably round 3. I don't think he's a second round guy. Dylan Laube of New Hampshire, 4.54. Really, really good receiver. This is a guy that I think can come in right away and catch some balls out of the backfield. Small school guy. Bucky Irvin of Oregon, I like. Just going through some of the notes that I had here. Kendall Milton of Georgia, I didn't think it was a good day. Audric Estime of Notre Dame, 4.71. That was the worst 40-yard dash time of any running back that ran at the combine. I was very disappointed in him, but he's been an ultra-productive guy for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has a history of producing fantasy-friendly running backs. Hello, Kyron Williams, who was a 5th-round pick, who also did not run well at the combine. I believe Kyron Williams was 4.6. Estimate 4.7. That was not good, but this guy caught a lot of passes. Like most Notre Dame backs, they catch the ball, they can run. So was disappointed in his workouts for sure. Now, the wide receivers. there is so much talent at this wide receiver position. There's some guys that really jumped out to me that I'm very excited. Xavier Worthy, 4.21. We talked about that from Texas. And then he shut it down after that. I thought that was dumb. Um, you know, but I mean, that speed, he's gonna find a home there, but he's rail thin. Hit or miss guy in college. I'm not, it could be John Ross all over again. Um, Listen, Brian Thomas Jr. of LSU is like the forgotten guy because Malik Neighbors, who I think is a top 5 talent, no doubt. And as a Giants fan, I would love to see Malik Neighbors fall to them. And I think he will be there. And I think that's the guy that they're going to get, or Odunze of Washington. But Brian Thomas Jr., he ran a 4.33. Like, that was a crazy good number. And he was already a mid-first round pick to begin with. And guys, how about the factory of LSU, the wide receiver factory? Odell Beckham Jr., Jamar Chase, Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson. And they're going to get 2 guys, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who will be top 15 picks. No doubt. Adonai Mitchell, 4.34, Texas. Really like the way he performed there. Ladd McConkey. So Georgia, Ladd McConkey really helped himself. Like, he was a late second round pick. That was my grade on him coming in. Ran a 4.39. Catches everything thrown to him. Crisp route runner. Don't be shocked if the Kansas City Chiefs take him with that last pick of the first round. Okay? Ladd McConkey. You watch. This kid has the it factor, and he's got speed. Catches everything thrown to him. Love Ladd McConkey. Xavier Legette of South Carolina disappointed me. I wanted to see more from him. He ran well, 4.39. He's just a physical specimen. He's got the size, he's got the strength, he's got the speed, he's got it all together, but he dropped a few too many balls in the drills, as did Troy Franklin, who's looked very shaky. And you watch that combine, Troy Franklin, who I had a late second round grade on from Oregon, very shaky in the gauntlet drill. Dropped a few, was kind of going half speed in that. Didn't like the way he performed there. Ricky Pearsall of Florida helped himself. Ran a 4.41, had the catch of the year in college football last year when he got drilled by 2 guys going up and high pointing it with one hand, came down with the ball with the one hand. Ricky Pearsall helped himself. I think he's put himself into the second round range. He's got a little Cooper Kupp to him. And remember, when Cooper Kupp was drafted, I believe right off the bat, everybody was talking about Cooper Kupp in fantasy even before he played an NFL game. I think Ricky Pearsall, not saying he's Cooper Kupp, but he's going to be able to contribute right away with his speed and his crisp route running. I really like this kid a lot for sure. Rome Odunze, 4.45. That was a big number for the Washington product. He's going to be drafted behind Neighbors. He's going to be drafted behind Harrison, but he's the locked-in number 3 guy. Really, really productive guy. Luke McCaffrey, Rice. Listen, he's not his brother. He's going to get drafted. I mean, listen, the McCaffrey name, he's going to get drafted. Ran a 4.46, which was impressive. He actually put up a better 40 time than Christian did. So that's, somebody to keep an eye on just from name familiarity there. And that was pretty much it there. Now, let's go to the tight ends. All right, that's the last fantasy relevant position here that we need to talk about. Devin Culp led the way, 4.47 from Washington. I thought he did a really nice job. Jaheim Bell of Florida State, he's dropped a few too many, but Tip Ryman of Illinois ran a 4.64. This guy is huge blocking tight end. He picked up the sled and basically moved it 10 yards down the field during the sled drills. I thought he played really, really well through the drills. He caught the ball better than I thought. I think Tip Ryman helped himself. Cade Stover of Ohio State was a little inconsistent catching the ball during the drills, but he ran well, 4.65. I like him. And Ben Sinnott from Kansas State ran a 4.68. He did a really good job. He had his family there rooting him on. And Dalen Holker of Colorado State ran a 4.78. Not great, but he caught 2 passes. He caught a ball, and then he caught a second one with his hand, not realizing that there was one more pass to come during the gauntlet drill. I thought that was awesome. And he had a nice memorable day just from that alone. So that's my thoughts on the combine. Overall, it's always fun to see. I think that there's still a lot to get to in terms of the draft order, where players are going to go. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3 with these quarterbacks? Marvin Harrison, you keep hearing about the Patriots. Do they sign Baker Mayfield? Who knows? But let me know what you thought about the combine. Post in the comments. Let me know about anything else we talked about today. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Going to do a new podcast tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Free agency, can't wait. Stay tuned, guys. Lots of stuff coming soon. And plus, the NCAA tournament coming up, guys. I'm going to do the bracketology special like I've done the last couple of years. Hopefully you can win your brackets. I think I have some really, really good stuff this year that's going to play well. So stay tuned for that one. All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.